The plan is to have Algieri knock Pacquiao out.
Yes, but I still got him in the cage. He listens to me very well. I'm going to let him loose in another round or so.
Round 10?
Round 10 or 11, I'm going to let him go.
Well, that's going to make it difficult for the plan to materialize.
You're listening to The Boxing Voice.
It's showtime!
Welcome back, boxing fans. Blood is good.
Iron face, a mask of blood.
Blood is emotion.
Too much blood coming out of the eye.
Blood is a story, a drama.
Deep gas, blood pouring right into his eye.
Blood is what we want to see in terms of passion.
Blood streaming now from the cut in the eye, the nose, his mouth, his cheeks swollen, and he's still crawling.
What we want is a bloody good fight tonight. We have Heather, the Heat Hardy. Is this you?
This is me. I think I need to talk to you every night because you make me smile and blush over here.
Never been a lame hoe, never been a lame hoe. Yeah, I love the trip. I'm okay.
You're serious? You're serious? And that's the good thing about UK. That's why I can't hate on them guys, man. They love fucking boxing. No fighters in England. They all bums.
Did you hear what this idiot just said?
Yo, son, you're gonna get your ass beat by Molina, son.
Are you fucking kidding me? He's overrated.
Do some pushes for me right now.
For the interview? Yes. Let those gifted hands go. Get out of here, Virgil. Go home. Good night.
You want the table starts to please. You not even running. You want the table starts to please.
BoxingVoice.com.
This is why we use the word sensation.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Boxing Voice. We're glad that you could join us. Those that haven't, you'll catch us on a podcast. I know you were expecting a show Sunday night, but it just didn't feel right. There was nothing to talk about, man. But between then and now, many things have happened, obviously. But we're going to stick to the script. We're going to, go ahead and discuss these year-end awards. I mean, there's certainly some fighters out there that merit some sort of acknowledgement for things that they might have done this 2014. And we're definitely going to touch on those topics, and we're going to take your picks as well and see who you felt won Fighter of the Year or Trainer of the Year, and various other categories. Obviously. We're going to take calls, as always, 646-478-3068. We're going to try and get this show before the year is out. And we're going to wish you guys all a happy new year and happy holidays. It's been a blast over the past years, but 2014 has been a great one for us, and that's credit to you guys and all the shares and exposure that you help us get with your iTunes reviews and your comments on YouTube and numerous other places, and we thank you. So squeezing one in, locked and loaded, ready to go. Robbie,
your audio cut out, Ness, but I'm glad to be with everybody this evening. And we look for a fun and exciting show.
So you don't hear me, is what you're telling me?
Oh, no, there it goes. Sometimes, I don't know what happens, but sometimes during the show, sometimes your microphone will cut in and out, but it's not a routine thing, but you never know when it's going to happen, but you're fine now.
All righty then. Well, speaking of being fine, let's talk about these categories that we got to touch on. Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year, Trainer of the Year, Knockout of the Year, Prospect of the Year, Comeback Fighter of the Year, and Event of the Year. Some things took place today. I believe his name is Inuo. He definitely needs to be mentioned, possibly for Fight of the Year. Not fight, but fighter, because of what he did. He was already a a bantamweight champion, and he moved up 2 divisions and took care of Omar Narvaez in 2 rounds. So we'll see how many people call in or drop comments, whether they feel that particular fighter should be fighter of the year. So I guess we'll start with fighter of the year, Robbie. Fighter of the year, we have nominees Sergey Kovalev, the Crusher, who's done, pretty much he took care of the lightweight division by unifying
light heavyweight
division by unifying with another champion, and just showing that he's the more, I guess, the one in the division more willing. To this point, it's looking like Stevenson isn't really trying to get in the ring, and Sergey Kovalev is fighting, guys the caliber of Bernard Hopkins and now John Pascal, while Stevens has been fighting kind of nobody. But in 2014, so Sergey Kovalev defeated by knockout in the 7th round Cedric Agnew. Blake Caparello, he dispatched him in 2 rounds, and Bernard Hopkins went the distance. So this is our first nominee for fighter of the year. Terence Crawford is a guy that a lot of people have been mentioning and wanting, basically saying that he deserves to be fighter of the year for what he did, in 2014. It's hard to forget, what Terence Crawford did, but it can be, I guess, picked apart. But in 2014, Terence Crawford from Omaha, Nebraska, traveled to Glasgow, Scotland in the United Kingdom and took on the champion Ricky Burns, and he gave him a pretty good whooping. It was a 12-round unanimous decision, and Crawford made his mark. Then he came back in the same year on June 28th in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska at the CenturyLink Center, and defeated by stoppage a heavily touted Yuriorkis Gamboa. Much criticism could be made of Gamboa, but at the end of the day, we were content when we thought Gamboa was going to fight Rios. It should be no different from then to now, because he fought Crawford. Crawford, listen, even because we knew Gamboa's chin was a little weird, we just never imagined that Crawford would look the way that he looked, and that fight would be that good, because let's not forget, for the first 3 rounds, Gamboa was looking every bit as good as he's been advertised. And, then things turned around. So that was definitely a great fight. And one of the reasons that Crawford is making a case for being fighter of the year. Then you got Raimundo Beltran, Robbie. I mean, what's your take on Crawford and the things that he's done in order to put himself in the runnings, to be mentioned, to be a nominee for fighter of the year?
Well, in my opinion, I will always go for a fighter who is, number one, active and is willing to fight, anybody. I mean, hell, not very many people would be willing to go to Glasgow, Scotland, to take on a hometown champion and win a unanimous decision in a foreign country, and then come back and establish a brand new fan base in this country, Omaha, Nebraska, not once but twice, and look good in beating both Beltran and Gamboa. So Terence Crawford is definitely my fighter of the year, because he not only fought 3 times, but he took on 3 names and won each fight, rather convincingly. Especially when you have to go to somebody else's country to do it. So he gets my vote for fighter of the year.
Well, next up is Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao he had 2 fights this year, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for them. Timothy Bradley, he was an undefeated fighter, pound for pound fighter. Pacquiao came back and handled Timothy Bradley fairly easy. Chris Algieri, same story, different scenario. Undefeated fighter, coming off a hot win over Provodnikov, and Manny Pacquiao went in there and wiped out an undefeated fighter. I mean, how many of us would love for Floyd Mayweather to fight a couple of undefeated fighters? How about an undefeated Kell Brook? Or at the time, an undefeated Sean Porter, or right now, an undefeated Keith Thurman. We wouldn't mind that. We bitch and moan that Pacquiao fought Algieri, and yes, he was moving up, but Pacquiao's a small dude after all. But say what you may. Again, I wouldn't mind if, Mayweather fought a couple of undefeated fighters, because Tim Bradley was undefeated. Chris Algieri was undefeated. Is that enough to make him fighter of the year? I don't know. Robbie, what do you think?
No, I don't know if it does, but yeah, we do have to give him credit because, number one, he was motivated to fight Bradley for the second time because of what happened the first time around. So you had a motivated Manny Pacquiao to go in the ring and prove to everybody that the first fight wasn't a fluke, and he basically came up with the right game plan and basically won that fight. And granted, Timothy Bradley, in my opinion, made some mistakes in that fight, and tried to go for a knockout, which Timothy Bradley is not known for. And then I even said when we had the preview show of Algieri Pacquiao, I honestly thought that Chris Algieri would give him some difficult problems because of the size and the movement and the reach and all that. But Manny Pacquiao went through Chris Algieri like it was like Swiss cheese. I mean, so Manny Pacquiao, like him or not, he's still at the top of his game, and we would applaud Floyd if he would take chances like this. So if you're gonna bitch and moan about what one fighter does, you have to consider the other fighter and applaud him for what he was willing to do.
Absolutely. Again, 2 undefeated fighters. Is that enough? I'm pretty sure we're going to get some Pacquiao fans, whether that be by phone call or comment, suggesting that he did enough. And I'm not saying that he didn't. I think the 2 undefeated fighters, one coming off a red-hot win, slightly controversial in some eyes, but an undefeated fighter in Timothy Bradley. I mean, how many of us would love Floyd to just fight Timothy Bradley? But another guy making his case for fighter of the year, not coming too far behind some of these big names, is a guy that has made his mark. And it's going to have me stray away from the topic just a bit because we speak of HBO and their propaganda and how they force feed us fighters, but they force-fed us this year Gennady Golovkin. They force-fed us this year Sergey Kovalev. They force-fed us this year Terence Crawford. And this year, all 3 names are in the mention for fighter of the year, if not mixed in with fight of the year or knockout of the year. So, okay, it's true. Maybe even I am wrong. Maybe they have an eye for talent. Maybe they know what's good for television and what's good for the fight fans. And we criticize and bash them when we hear it come over our television set. But ultimately, it seems like they've been right because a lot of their names, their name fighters are the fighters that we're talking about. And one of those fighters is Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin, could he be mentioned for fighter of the year? I don't know. You be the judge. He fought Usama Amdama, and then he fought Daniel Geale, and then he fought Marco Antonio Rubio. So he had 3 fights this year. Is that enough to merit fighter of the year? Are these level of opponents worthy of that title? Or is his fan-friendly, television-friendly, good rating style enough to make him fighter of the year because he attracts people to our sport? Gennady Golovkin. Robbie, really quick, what you think before we get to the rest of these nominees?
Well, and keep one thing in mind. Golovkin normally fights 4 times a year. The only reason why he didn't fight 4 times in 2014 is because his father died. So that canceled one of his fights, or he would have had a 4th fight this year. And he's already said, come out and publicly stated several times, he will be fighting 4 times in 2015. So I think he's worthy of Fighter of the Year, and just because of the kind of things he brings to the sport. So let's go on to the next one.
Wow. I wasn't really expecting to hear you say that you thought he was worthy of Fight of the Year based on the level of opponents. I mean, Daniel Geale is probably the best name out of that litter that he had this year. And he won that in spectacular fashion, but I don't know. I mean, if Gennady can get it for fighting C and B level fighters, then Kovalev makes a better case for beating a legend. But moving on, our next nominee for Fighter of the Year is Saul Canelo Alvarez. And Saul Canelo Alvarez is a young kid. He's only 24 years old. And this year he beat up Alfredo Angulo. Now, say what you may about Angulo, you know, because we just didn't know, was he done after that Lara fight? Did he look bad in the fight before that when he fought like a 147-pound dude moving up and he couldn't get him out of there and they both were giving each other hell? Yes, but we didn't know he was done. Listen, Canelo put the stamp on that. He made sure this boy was no more the perro that we all knew. He took all the bite out of this dog, and moving forward, Angulo has looked horrible. At least in the Lara fight, when he took the damage with the eye, he still was super competitive. He got like 2 knockdowns. Let's not forget that. So on top of that, this young kid, after losing to Mayweather, going after the best, the hardcore fans at the time thought Lara was also the best. So he already tried and failed with Mayweather, but he went after the boogeyman that we thought was the boogeyman. Now, credit to all you Canelo fans that always picked him and always seen him winning. Look, this fight was a controversial win or loss. Some people gave credit to Canelo for his aggressiveness, and some gave credit to Lara for his boxing. Others called it plain and simple running. But be that as it may, the win falls on the column for Canelo Alvarez, and these are 2 pretty good wins. Taking on Lara, showing those balls, he got to get credit for that. We all thought Lara was a badass and a problem for anyone, and beating on an Angulo like that, man, we need to call the Humane Society on this dude, the way he abused the dog. So I don't know. Is he Fighter of the Year? You be the the voice of reason. You let us know. We got 2 other guys in this category. One that, listen, I mean, I wouldn't be upset with anyone giving this guy Fighter of the Year, because if you give it to Kovalev for beating Hopkins, because you're not giving it to him for beating Agnew, and you're not giving it to him for him beating whoever else because he beat Hopkins, right? So if you're gonna give that to Kovalev, well, then Miguel Cotto deserves it for beating Sergio Martinez the way that he did, because now we got 2 legends, right? We got look, Martinez is no legend, but we got 2 big names, right? And one guy handled the big name really good, and one guy went above and beyond. I mean, he got however many knockdowns, and it was a stoppage. Again, say what you might about Martinez's leg, but don't forget that we could say the same about Hopkins's age. So Miguel Cotto is our nominee. Now, a guy that very many of you may not give credit to, and I think deserves it, because he's always gotten the shit end of the stick, is Orlando Salido. He beat up a heavily touted Vasyl Lomachenko. Now, of course, the Lomosexuals out there will say, oh, he came in overweight. The Lomosexuals out there will say, oh, he was hitting to the he was hitting low. Be that as it may, same thing with Canelo. It's the end of the year. We're just trying to wrap this one up, Throw away the fucking key. Move on to 2015. Hopefully it brings us a lot more. Hopefully there's more fruit for our labor from this year. Everything that we suffered this year, hopefully it comes, it comes full circle and we get a beautiful 2015. It's sounding that way. Let me tell you, I'm hyped up for Stavern Wilder. I'm just hyped up. I can't wait to get into those. But Orlando Salido, he beat up Lomachenko and then he went up in weight and won another world title in a candidate of fight of the year as well, because that was a barn burner, which he beat the champion by knockout. So Orlando Salido, he might just be the fighter of the year. So, the fighter of the year. So moving on to fight of the year. Let's see if we can take some calls in between this here. 636, man, we're live. Talk to us. Fighter of the year. What did you think of the nominees, or do you have your own?
Yo, what's up, Ness? What up? Hey, is Beebs there, man? Where everybody at?
Man, it's a work day, baby.
Right now, it's just me and Ness. Beeb was supposed to be here, but he hasn't shown up yet. So.
Oh, it's all good, man. Well, fighter of the year, I would have to give it to no other than Kovalev. I feel that, a lot of people felt that B-Hop was going to outclass him, me included. And the way that he outclassed B-Hop was just mind-boggling. It was amazing to see. So I would just have to give it to him on the strength of that. And his whole body of work, he's been very consistent. All his wins have been pretty good wins in my opinion, and I just feel that he deserves it. Put it to work.
Isn't it a bit unfair to give a guy fighter of the year for one fight? I mean, you're talking about body of work. Where's his body of work? Cedric Agnew, Blake Caparello, while Crawford has been beating up guys like Gamboa, Beltran, and Burns?
Well, you know what? I forgot all about Crawford. Yeah, you definitely have to give it to Crawford because of the body of work. You go off of body of work, you got to give it to Crawford.
But what about Manny Pacquiao? What about Manny Pacquiao? He beat it pound for pound.
No, because I'm gonna be honest. I knew he was gonna beat Bradley. I understand Bradley's a top elite fighter. He's pound for pound, or at least he's up there. He's somewhere up there. But Algieri, no. I told people he was gonna demolish and run through. I can't really give it to Pac. Pac, he came back from the knockout. Give him credit. Most people cannot come back from a one-punch knockout like this. So, yes, give him his just due. But, nah, I just can't do it, man. I can't do it.
All right, but you told people
knockout
that
of the year, I would have to give it to Felix Diamante Verdejo. He looked sensational. And I think he had two knockouts that were brutal one-punch knockouts. But the biggest one was that didn't he knock out what's the guy named Villanueva or something like that?
It wouldn't even matter because people knocked out better people.
That is true too. Yeah,
he's been knocking out bums, and Andy Lee knocked out Korobov, and what was the other knockout? Beterbiev knocked out Cloud.
Oh no, Walters and Donaire. Nobody thought that Walters was gonna get him out of there like that. That's pretty big too, though.
Again,
but was big.
In my opinion, the biggest upset was Beterbiev Cloud. You couldn't have called that. Not the way it went down.
Yeah,
even if you've been watching Beterbiev for years and you knew all the hoopla that he beat the Kovalevs twice, I don't think anyone expected him to blow him out like in 2 or 3 rounds. Not the way that he did.
He got him out of there.
But listen, let me get to some other callers and get to some other categories here, man. We got some more to talk about. We're going to talk about fight of the year. Fight of the year, Mathysse versus Molina. Barn burner, lots of blood. It was blood, guts, and glory at the end for Lucas Mathysse. And we also have Crawford Gamboa. Again, like I said earlier in the show, first 3 rounds going to Gamboa, then Crawford taking over, switching styles, and eventually knocking his man out. Another fight I talked about earlier, Salido versus Kokietgym, barn burner. I mean, that has to be. That is, listen, I know that Gamboa Crawford is 2 big names. I know that. And that may trump Salido Kokietgym, but again, Salido was moving up in weight. Gamboa was moving up in weight. 2 guys facing a champion, but Salido, he did some damage, dude. These guys knocked each other down. This was I mean, I guess Gamboa, I don't know, that because they were both that back and forth-ish. But Salido, Kokietgym, to me, was way more action. But Ruslan versus Algieri also mentioned for Fight of the Year. Let's take another call and see what they think. 787, you're live on the Boxing Voice. Who's this?
Hey, it's Juan from Caguas, Puerto Rico. How you doing, man?
What's up, Juan?
Hey, guys. You know, I'm still trying to catch up with all the shows that you guys have done in this past week. And,
I slowed down.
I
slowed down, man. I didn't do one Sunday to let you catch up.
Yeah, seriously. I seriously got to catch up. But, yeah, it's been a busy week. But I'll tell you what, you know, I really enjoying all these shows. And I couldn't miss this one. I just got the email that you guys were going to do this show, and I had to put in my 2 cents. First of all, I listened to some of the stuff you've been talking about, a Fighter of the Year and Fight of the Year. Let me tell you something. With respect to Fighter of the Year, I saw your nominees here. I'm looking at it right now on my iPad. And nobody's going to be nobody's going to agree with me on this one. And, you know, I'm actually picking this guy because of, you know, he's shown so much heart. Even all fights that were fought, I think both of them this year. But, you know, I have to give this guy Fighter of the Year. And it has to be definitely Mauricio Herrera. You know, this guy fought his heart out in those 2 fights. He should have won both of them. They were both very important fights. And he was completely wronged on those fights. And he gave us a lot of action here. Everybody was calling him to win those 2 fights. If anything, he should be the Fighter of the Year. He should be, even though he's not nominated here, everybody's going to remember his performances. You know, he boxed his heart out. He definitely showed that even though he took those 2 losses, and especially I have to commend you, Ness, you know, taking Mauricio Herrera's call. I think you did a great interview with him. You could tell that he was very frustrated, but at the same time, he maintained a very positive attitude with respect to future fights and his future prospects. And I think he should be considered at least. I know there's a lot of bigger names. I know there's a lot of more interesting fights. But to me, at least, you know, he should be considered as Fighter of the Year because he took those 2 losses and those 2 should have been wins. He was completely unknown, and he proved that he's a force to be reckoned with. With respect to Fight of the Year, I have to admit, most of these fights that you guys have nominated, I didn't see them. But I'll tell you what, I'm sure Crawford versus Gamboa is probably a very important fight. Gamboa was always, even though he was very inactive, you know, due to his association with 50 Cent and you know, his not very effective promoting strategies. He was always considered, at least 1 or 2 years ago, a fighter to be reckoned with. When Juanma Lopez was still somebody that was respected as a boxer, that was a fight that people were looking forward to. But then, of course, Juanma got, you know, his soul got taken by Orlando Salido. And Gamboa was always considered as a very dangerous fighter. And Crawford, everybody's talking about Crawford. That's definitely another candidate for Fighter of the Year. Very impressive guy. He fought 3 times this year. Some of his opponents maybe weren't as well known, but he did his job. And even though I didn't see that fight, I'm sure it was action-packed. You know, Gamboa's a very important opponent. There's a couple of fights I enjoyed. I have to say, I mean, I really enjoyed the Cotto fight for personal reasons, but I can't say that was Fight of the Year. At the same time, people knock Cotto for Sergio Martinez being injured, but nobody was willing to face Sergio Martinez, and Cotto was the only one who stepped up. You know, Martinez got the fight, and I actually saw a replay of that yesterday, and it's going to be interesting to see who he handles this year in May. But I wouldn't give Cotto Fighter of the Year, though, I wouldn't give him any of the props besides the fact that he took, you know, Martinez's belts. Why? Because one thing that really pissed me off about Cotto this year, even though I'm a diehard fan being Puerto Rican, is the fact that he only fought 1 year. Now, that's ridiculous. You know, I know, you know, he had this excuse of Freddie Roach not being available at the end of the year. But, you know, at that level, There's no excuse. You have to fight unless you're seriously injured, which he wasn't. You have to fight at least two times a year. So he doesn't get at least any recognition from me other than the fact that he fought a very interesting fight and he got the belts, and now he's definitely the opponent that everybody's looking to fight. All right. So besides that, I see other categories. Maybe they're not as interesting to me as like trainer of the year. I'll say, well, you have to give it to Freddie Roach in some respect. He's always getting most of the winners in a year. Even though the thing that you did mention, Manny Pacquiao is probably fighter of the year, I have to completely disagree with that. Manny Pacquiao, he beat Bradley. So what? Everybody knows he beat Bradley in the first fight, even though, again, he was robbed as Mauricio was. So he beat Bradley, big deal. And after that, Algieri, come on, that's almost, for me, maybe it's not the same thing as saying Danny Garcia versus Rod Salka, but most everybody knew that was completely mismatched, and it showed. I don't think he should even be mentioned as fighter of the year. So those are my 2 cents. I don't know what you guys think about my picks. I'm sure you all disagree with Mauricio Herrera. I don't know what you think about my Cotto comments, but this is a very interesting show. I really appreciate that you guys are talking about all these year-end nominees, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's good to have somebody from Puerto Rico calling and giving the Puerto Rican point of view. And I don't blame you for how you feel about Miguel Cotto. You're right. It's hard to consider somebody a fighter of the year when they only fight, once. That's why I'm a supporter of Crawford this year, because he actually fought 3 times and 3 opponents that most everybody in boxing that follows it knows, and he won all 3 fights rather convincingly. So, and as far as Pacquiao, I can't argue with your assessment. Like I said when we talked about it a few minutes ago, Pacquiao was motivated to show that he'd beat Bradley the first time, so he went in and made sure that he did that. And the reason why Algieri got that shot against Pacquiao is because he beat Ruslan. If Ruslan would have won that fight, it would have been Ruslan and Pacquiao, and who knows what kind of fight that would have been. No, you have very valid points.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't dispute, especially with Mauricio Herrera. It is what it is. Some people had Herrera winning both fights. Some people didn't. And if you guys want to nominate him, you can, because like I said in the very, very beginning of the show, if you can make a case for a guy, well, we have to let him in, because we're all fight fans here, and if you can make a case, you can make a case. So Mathysse versus Molina, Crawford versus Gamboa, Salido versus Kokietgym, and Provodnikov versus Algieri are our nominees for Fight of the Year and Trainer of the Year. This year, we have Freddie Roach, who seems to always be in the runnings or the winner, Abel Sanchez, John David Jackson, and Bryan Mclntyre, who is the trainer of Terence Crawford. So now you got a guy in Abel Sanchez who's been training Gennady Golovkin, and he's faced the level of opposition that he's faced. John David Jackson training Kovalev, and he's faced the level of opposition that he's faced. Freddie Roach training multiple fighters. I really don't know who he's in here for, if not for Pacquiao. At least Pacquiao got 2 wins this year. Provodnikov is 1-1 this year. We got a bunch of other Freddie Roach fighters who've been losing, so I'm assuming he's being nominated for his work with Manny Pacquiao, which I guess could be put on some sort of plateau because it is a comeback after all from a knockout. So a guy that get knocked out in the fashion that Manny Pacquiao did by Juan Manuel Marquez, we don't expect him to come back and beat up pound-for-pound fighters and undefeated fighters the way that he's doing. We don't expect him to get 6 knockdowns. We just don't expect that. So maybe Freddie Roach is in there for that. Abel Sanchez John David Jackson, and Terence Crawford's trainer, Bryan Mclntyre. Knockout of the year is going to be Lee versus Jackson. Lee versus Jackson. Now, I was thinking more like Lee versus Korobov because it was a bigger fight. People were tuned in because of, Peter Quillen vacated, and that was the guy that Quillen was supposed to face. And, Korobov was looking jacked up too, man. The dude looked like he was ripped in there, and Lee pulled it off. But we're giving him credit for the Jackson fight, which was apparently a better knockout. But it's competing with Froch Groves 2, Klitschko versus Pulev, which was a beautiful knockout, Mathysse versus Molina, which also ended in knockout, and Golovkin taking his own punch to the face to land his knockout fight-ending punch versus Daniel Geale. So a lot of people here, some pretty good fights. Let's see what our guy.
Fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Boxing fans, here's Jameson.
Yo, I kind of jumped on and I heard you guys talking about, I think it was the trainer of the year. Freddie Roach's work with Cotto, too, to me personally, I got to give it to him, man. With Manny Pacquiao winning, I mean, there's a lot of, like, John David Jackson's one that I didn't even think of, to be honest with you, but the win over Hopkins is, I guess, good enough to even put him in the name of the conversation. Someone like Ronnie Shields has been kind of, sheltering all his fighters and putting him in, I guess, in tough fights. I thought he was a good trainer this year, but if you're talking about knockout of the year, man, you said you didn't do it, but I think Korobov Lee was the best because I thought Lee was going to lose this fight. I thought more impactful on the actual division, and I think also I guess an honorable mention should be Walters over Donaire because, again, for the same reasons. It was monumental for that division. That was a big fight that happened. It happened the way it did, and they both won by knockout.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, James. I don't know why we didn't put Walters and Donaire in there because that was impressive, and I'll never forget Donaire's comments after the fight where he basically.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We're giving Walters a lot of credit here. I mean,
what about Gamboa? What about Crawford Gamboa? That's a good fight. That's another good knockout.
Never been the same after my boy spanked him. Let's just not forget that.
Oh, hey, I'm not going to forget what the Cuban did against Donaire. I mean, that was impressive.
So moving along to prospect of the year, many prospects out there. We got Olir Sandir Oskik, pretty good guy. Looks like he may be Native American, but he's from the Ukraine. He's definitely a strong guy. You got Anthony Joshua looking like a hot prospect from the UK in the heavyweight division. You got Diego De La Hoya, proving that his last name is only that and that he could bring some action to the ring. You got a truly advanced prospect in Julian Williams that at this point, if it wasn't for politics, he would be a contender. You got Felix Verdejo, who's looking every bit his nickname Dynamite. And you got Artur Beterbiev. I mean, the better beast of the lightweight division, in my opinion. He's coming.
Light heavyweight again.
Light heavyweight. You're right again. Thank you, Robbie. And he's coming, and I'm excited to see him. And what he did this year, to me, merits prospect of the year. Knocking out a contender, former champion in Tavares Cloud. I don't care what you guys say about how done Cloud was or how much he couldn't fight, though. I don't care, bro. He knocked him out, and he took care of him like a beast does. And Better Beast is my new prospect of the year. But can't forget Errol Spence. Consistently fighting, consistently looking very, very fundamentally sound, and his power looks sound. If he isn't going to knock you out, he's going to batter you. And Errol Spence as well is a nominee. What do you guys think?
I like the Beterbiev nomination. I want to go with Errol Spence, but I mean, his best win, I mean, again, this is prospect, but his best win would be Ronald Cruz. Ronald Cruz lost to fucking, Cintron, Kermit Cintron pretty recently. So yeah. I got to agree with you, man. Beterbiev's, the win over Cloud is better than what any prospect has done thus far, I guess, this whole year. So I'll go with Beterbiev. That's not bad.
No, you really can't argue. I mean, when you put a prospect in against a former champion, supposedly so he could get some experience, and then he turns around and totally destroys that former champion rather quickly. I mean, that's kind of hard to ignore.
And I knew nothing about Beterbiev until that fight, to be honest with you, and I was really surprised by the outcome of that fight because I thought Cloud was a little bit better than that, but I guess maybe Beterbiev is just that good.
And I'm not ashamed to admit that I knew nothing either. And when I seen that Cloud fight, I went back and watched all his fights because I said, fuck it. He's only 6-0. Let me hurry up and get on board so I don't have to, go back and watch 20-something fights. I could watch them starting now and just do the back history on him. And he's just good, man. He's got real deal power. But his last fight, he went down, man, and it was kind of a regular punch. So I don't know, that's the thing. Some of these Europeans don't have chins, but I'm excited for Beterbiev. Moving on, comeback fighter of the year. And I know a lot of people are going to give this one to the one and only Boricua's own 160-pound WBC champion, making history the way that he did this year. And also, knocking out Delvin Rodriguez this year. He is looking like a comeback fighter of the year after his loss to Floyd Mayweather and Austin Trout. But you got David Lemieux. Now, again, it all falls down to who did what in their respective divisions and what's bigger. And unfortunately for Andy Lee, Orlando Salido, well, I don't know. See, it's some tough names. Well, the nominees are David Lemieux for his comeback, Andy Lee for his sensational comeback, 2 knockouts this year, by the way. Winning both fights by knockout. Miguel Cotto with his 2 knockouts, and you got Salido with his 1 win, 1 knockout. This is a tough one right here, but you guys all know that I'm the mushy one on the panel. I'm the one that loves to dream. I'm the one that loves the hard knock life story, the give the underdog a shot. So I don't care, man. Andy Lee, he can get it for me. He's eventually gonna fight Miguel Cotto in the Garden anyway. If Canelo takes long, it's gonna be Lee, Cotto, Irish versus Puerto Rican in the Garden. It's gonna go crazy. I mean, when Martinez fought this other guy from Ireland, what was his name? And he's nowhere near as accomplished as Andy Lee. Not now, anyway. Andy Lee being a middleweight champion. But
are you talking about Mclntyre?
Mclntyre, yes. When he fought Martinez in the Garden, that it was a small ballroom, but it was wild because it was St. Patrick's Day or something like that. It was crazy over there. But anyway, David Lemieux, Andy Lee, Miguel Cotto, Orlando Salido, comeback fighters of the year. I'm going to give it to Andy Lee, man. I think that 2 knockouts and the fashion of his knockouts, it's a guy we wrote off. It's a guy that we really didn't expect to beat Korobov because his last fight was at 54. The fight before that was at 60. We just didn't know what to expect from Andy Lee. And 2 times at bat, 2 home runs out the park. Miguel Cotto did some good things. Rodriguez is a notable name, and Martinez is a big name. So I'm not going to argue with anyone that gives it to Miguel Cotto because that's a true comeback story. He's been through some defeats in his life, and he's turned it around. I mean, he's really turned it around. There may be intangibles or asterisks to both fights. Delvin may not be that good. Martinez probably was on his last leg, but we won't know till his next fight. Up until now, he's been looking good.
I'm going with Cotto, man. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, to me personally, it's between David Lemieux and Miguel Cotto. And, I mean, coming into this year, 2014, man, we all thought Miguel Cotto was washed up. I mean, he lost to Trout, who even at this point has now shown that he's not even that high of a level. So he still lost to this fighter fair and square. So coming into it, everyone thought that Miguel Cotto was out. Everyone thought that he was done. He was a former shell of himself. But even though he came into a fight as a huge underdog, no matter what people say now with hindsight, he was a huge underdog in that fight. Not only did he perform, it became one of his best performances of the year. And David Lemieux, on the other hand, was an ESPN-level fighter I thought I would never see back. The next time I'd see him on my TV is watching a title boxing video. And then he came back and he knocked out Fernando Guerrero. Then he did what he did to Gabriel Rosado. 2 great wins, but personally, if I had to give it to someone, it's to Miguel Cotto because, again, the impact on the division. It's not what he did in the past and how popular he was and now where he is. It doesn't matter. It's how far he slid and how far he climbed back up. He slid all the way down to the bottom rung and went right back up to the top. And to me, Miguel Cotto is the fighter of the year or comeback of the year. Khan also needs to be a mention, too. Amir Khan was on a huge slide and then came back and got some good wins.
Oh. Well, you make a very good case, James, because...
Robbie, allow me to interrupt for one moment and just... I just want to kill James's little statement about Khan. Khan can't be mentioned for comeback of the year because he's been coming back for 2 years. The Danny Garcia knockout. Yeah, but you can't get comeback of the year this year when you came back last year.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I thought, for some reason I thought that knockout from Garcia was last year, and so was the Peterson shit. Never mind. Stricken from the record.
Anyway, what I was going to say, you make a very valid case. You know what I've wondered about Miguel Cotto? I wondered what kind of fighter he would have been had he got with Freddie Roach a lot sooner than what he did. I wonder if Freddie Roach is the person that's made the difference in this man's career.
I don't know. I think he would have. I think he might have won the Trout fight. I think he would have had a good enough generalship in the corner to do that. But I personally still don't think any of the losses that Cotto has would have made a difference with Freddie Roach in the corner. If we're talking about the Margarito and we're talking about Pacquiao, I mean, still, even with Mayweather, I still only think he might have won just the Trout fight.
Okay. But no, he seems to be a completely different fighter than he used to be under Freddie Roach. That's why I brought that up.
He does, man, and that has to be noted. He's more aggressive. He's working with the left hook finally, and he's looking confident. You know, I just wish he changed his personality a bit. 313, I believe this was Sam. What's going on, brother?
Oh, what's up, man? Yeah, just wanted to give you guys my picks for all the different topics.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. As I said last week, I said if for fighter of the year, if Naoya Inoue he wins against Omar Narvaez, that he would be my fighter of the year. And you know, for me, you know, there's enough subjectivity in boxing, so I devised, and I'm sure people have the same criteria. They just don't organize it like that. But for my criteria for establishing a person as a fighter of the year is 1, level of opposition, 2, fashion of the wins in which they defeat their opposition, titles gained and or unified, and intangibles like weight, controversy, things like that. And all those things being considered, I think Naoya Inoue has the best qualifications of anybody to be fighter of the year. I mean, he beat 2 different champions, the tops of their divisions in basically between 3 weight classes, and all by knockout. 3 fights, 3 knockouts in 2 divisions, skipping an entire division. Okay, so I don't think a lot of people could. I mean, when was the last time that happened? So
I just want to say credit to Jay Rosales. I watched that fight, and it was an exciting fight. That kid Inoue, he's something else. I can't believe he was moving up. He was so much bigger than Omar Narvaez, and he was. Everything that he landed was I mean, that's a fight to go watch. It's only 2 rounds, so everybody should check it out, man. Omar Narvaez versus whatever Inoue, that was a barn burner.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing fighter, man. Technically, strength, the way he filled up to 115, I was just I didn't even expect it. I mean, if you look in the timeline, in Twitter conversations, a lot of people were skeptical. Is this guy really gonna pull it off? And he did it in 2 rounds. So he fulfilled all my criteria. So I think he's my fighter of the year. And fight of the year, I think it would have to be Molina Mathysse, since we're not usually accustomed to seeing Mathysse, drop twice. The exchanges were very, very intense, and it was good action all around. My trainer of the year is actually Virgil Hunter, believe it or not, because in my opinion, when choosing who the trainer of the year is, I tend to look for the changes that a certain fighter goes through. Sometimes the trainer will train a person, but he's not really the main factor in that person's success. Sometimes the fighter is just really that good. But when Amir Khan came into to Virgil Hunter's camp against look, last year was, Julio Diaz, but this year specifically, he transformed him into an entirely different fighter from everything, from his movement, his stance, his punch selection, his way of fighting, his pace, all of it, and he made him so much better. So I think he's very deserving of Trainer of the Year. My KO of the year is Gennady Golovkin's knockout of Daniel Geale. It was, truly one of the only knockouts I've ever seen like that, where a person, partially slips, gets popped by a shot, and counters right, instinctively just like that, and knocks his opponent out, especially an opponent who's never been knocked out before. I think that's an intangible you have to look for. And my prospect of the year is, of course, Beterbiev, or Beterbiev, because of what he did to James Page Jr. and to Tavoris Cloud, especially the Tavoris Cloud fight. It was his first fight making the light heavyweight limit, so that was very, very impressive for him going to a different division and fighting a former world champion. And my upset of the year would have to be Andy Lee against Matvey Korobov. I personally picked Korobov. I thought he was the more skilled fighter. He had a good defense and everything, but he really shocked me. I mean, I hardly know any people who picked Andy Lee, and that was my upset. With the comeback fight of the year, I think that would have to be Andy Lee too, because you get 2 for 1. He came back from those losses that he suffered, and within the fights themselves, you have like this little niche. He was losing those fights and came back to win them. So I think it's only befitting that he gets comeback fight of the year, and that's pretty much it.
Well, all right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in. I'm gonna get to some other callers here. Beeb, man, you're on, brother. Talk to us. All right, moving along. 917.
I told him 35, 65. Come on, buddy.
917.
We don't want to fight him. But I feel like if he's not scared of him, he's scared of losing.
Okay, he's having his own boxing conversation. 704.
All right, Ness. What's up?
What's up, brother?
How you doing? Yo, fighter of the year, man. Terence Crawford. I got to go with Terence Crawford. Got a really good bunch of wins. We fight like 3 times. Defended his title. Went overseas to win his title, which is a great, great feat in its own right. So it's really hard to go against him. I mean, he did the most, in my opinion. And, he had a tall task to go overseas, and he accomplished that. And a lot of guys wouldn't even go overseas. So, I mean, kudos to him for the bravery and the courage to do that. And, he deserves all the credit in the world for what he did this year. Fight of the year, I think James, I don't know if James said this, but, I think Rasan said it, that, when have we ever seen Mathysse get knocked down twice in a fight, let alone once? So that fight had a lot of drama. It was just a great, great fight in terms of drama. It was unexpected what happened, so there was a lot of shock value as well in that fight. And it was entertaining. It was back and forth, action. It showed a little bit of skill. I mean, Molina showed some skill in that fight. I mean, he actually set the right hand up beautiful with the jab, had great timing. He hung in there, fought on the inside very well for a little bit until, he weathered towards the end. So that was a great, great fight.
Beeb, I'm a little disappointed, real quick, Beeb. I'm disappointed. I thought you were going to roll with me with Crawford Gamboa. For all the same reasons you mentioned.
That was a great fight, too. That was a great fight, too. But you know what? One thing that I like doing, I like being surprised. And going into that Gamboa fight, I expected that to be a really, really entertaining fight. Maybe not. Maybe it did exceed my expectations to some degree. But this Molina fight really exceeded my expectations. I think it exceeded a lot.
Hold on,
a lot
babe.
of people.
Hold on. How could that Molina fight really exceed your expectations when Molina wasn't competitive except for the rounds that he scored knockdowns in?
Not to mention that everyone did have that as a great fight. Everyone thought that was going to be a war.
Molina hung in there. I thought he was competitive like the first 6, 7 rounds, and then he really started wearing down. So like I said, I expected Molina to get blown out in that fight in 2 rounds.
I can't believe that you would expect that when Molina himself is a big puncher.
Okay, but can you really forget him getting blown out in 1 round by Antonio DeMarco?
Can you erase?
Yeah, but yes, I can erase it because I knew that was a bullshit. That was a bullshit stoppage. That was a bullshit stoppage.
Well, he got knocked out 3 times in 1 round, and he couldn't even get out the gate.
It wasn't 3 times. Wasn't it the first knockdown he got blasted on the other side of the ring?
Yeah, it was a bullshit knockdown and stoppage, man. I didn't care. I didn't care at the time because I was a huge DeMarco supporter at the time. Think about all the times we had him on the show. I love DeMarco. He was balls to the wall, but that shit was bullshit, man. It was all straight punches anyway. It was a bunch of jabs, a couple of rights, and the referee he jumped in.
Can I ask you guys a question? When Mathysse got dropped really hard twice in that 1 round, was it the 1 round or was it happen? Did both knockdowns happen in 1 round or were they spread out? I'm trying to remember.
I think they were separate. I think the first one was like in the 4th and the other one was a little bit later. But I remember the one in the 4th not even being that like it was a knockdown in the sense that he got hit, but it wasn't like a knockdown in the sense that he took him off his feet.
Well, one of the knockdowns, I think it was the one in the 6th, if I remember correctly. That was a very solid punch. He really hurt him. And I for a minute there, I was saying to myself, oh shit, Molina's going to win this fight. I know Ness says Ness said to me he never thought that was the case. He always thought that Mathysse was going to come back and win. But for a minute there, I was saying to myself, oh shit, this is going to be upset of the year. So maybe I'm overestimating what happened because maybe I'm just, so surprised even to this point what Molina was able to do in that fight. But at the end of the day, I got to tell the truth, man, and I was impressed, man. I was really, really impressed with Molina, and I thought he did well.
Didn't Molina?
Let me jump right.
Didn't he lose twice this year?
Yeah, he lost to Humberto Soto.
Yeah, that was disgusting, that performance against Soto. But regardless, let's go to Trainer of the Year real quick. Let me get through this, please.
Say Freddie Roach. Please say Freddie Roach. You love Freddie Roach.
I don't like Freddie Roach too much, man. I've got to give him his props, for being successful and everything. I'm just not a huge fan. Maybe you guys are being sarcastic, I'm guessing.
I was being sarcastic because you and Vic used to always argue around this time last year about how Freddie Roach wasn't overrated.
Yeah, I still think he's overrated, but
yeah, but he's got to get a lot of credit for what he did with Cotto.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he totally turned around Miguel Cotto's career, in my opinion.
Well, the big thing with Cotto is Cotto started taking control of his career. Like as soon as he became a free agent, he wasn't taking fights when he didn't want to take them. He was resting himself. He got some proper surgeries to his shoulder or whatever. And, he hasn't fought any stupid catch weights and stuff. So I think Cotto has become better at handling his career, and he's kind of learning, about himself. And he's saying, I'm not going to be forced into fights when I don't want to fight. That's why he's taking so much time, making decisions now when he fights, because he wants to make sure he's rested and he's ready to go. He doesn't want to have to look back and say, hey, I wasn't ready for this fight. But, I'm not going to say Freddie Roach isn't helping him. I think a lot of times it's a psychological thing with fighters. Like if they have a good rapport with the trainer, sometimes that trainer can bring the best out of them. But I always say a trainer can't bring something out of you that you don't already have. But I don't know, man. This is a real tough one. You kind of want to go with Abel Sanchez, but then again, you say to yourself, did Golovkin really fight and he wasn't great? But again, in terms of success, I'm going to go with Abel Sanchez here because, Freddie Roach argument because Pacquiao had a good win against Bradley, but the Algieri fight I thought was a mismatch. And then you could say, well, all of Golovkin's fights were mismatches too, but again, he blew Geale out in that fight, and I didn't really expect him to blow Geale out. I was impressed with that. And then Rubio, and then who else did he fight? He fought someone else. I'm trying to remember.
Adama.
Yeah, Adama, which was a kind of not nothing. But at least, he kept his fighter active, kept his fighter motivated, and his fighter did what he was supposed to do. He didn't get complacent, and get upset and kind of get lackadaisical in his training because he wasn't fighting big names. You know, so that you got to give him credit for keeping this kid motivated and hungry. So I'll go with Sanchez. You know, just kind of by like default, because I don't think anyone really. You know, John David Jackson. Okay, Kovalev beat Hopkins, but again, who else did he really beat? You know, nothing extraordinary.
But what about what Wassam said about Virgil Hunter and what he's done with Amir Khan?
You know, I'm almost compelled to pick Virgil Hunter based off of that too. But then I'm looking at the Angulo fight. I'm looking at the Berto fight. You know, I'm just looking at a lot of the other failures that he's had, and then Andre Ward being out a whole year, and you know, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of shortcomings too from Virgil Hunter. So, you know, it's tough, man. I mean, it's worth mentioning, but by default, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with Abel Sanchez because he kept his fighter motivated, he kept his fighter hungry, and he's continued to hone this guy's skills. Even though this guy Golovkin's a knockout puncher, he still fights, you know, with skills. He's methodical. He doesn't rush in. He breaks guys down, and he actually has an underrated defense. A lot of times, people think he's getting hit when he's really not getting hit flush. He's kind of rolling with punches. He's kind of you know, turning and riding the punch out, so he's not really getting the full brunt of the punch. And I think a lot of those little intricacies, I'm sure he learned that from the amateurs. It's his extensive background in the amateurs. But I think that, you know, Sanchez got a lot of experience, and he's kind of honed those little intricacies and kind of sharpened those little intricacies and made Golovkin a better fighter. I think with the wrong trainer, Golovkin could have problems. Like if he gets in there with a guy and he's got the wrong trainer that preaches knockout, go blow this guy out of there, bad things can happen. And you listen to Sanchez in the corner, he says, okay, just take it easy, go to the body, break him down, you know, work off the jab, set the shots up, and it kid listens. So I got to go with Sanchez. All right, so what other categories we got left? We got comeback of the year. Got to go with Andy Lee, man. Wow. What a Cinderella story that is, winning the title from Korobov. You know, and if you, I didn't give him a shot in that fight. I didn't give him 1 ounce of a shot in that fight, and wow. That's all I could say is wow. And knockout of the year, I got to give it to him too. And I'm going to go with the John Jackson fight. And I know James was talking about significance of the Korobov fight. That should trump that fight. But I'm just looking in terms of just shock value, highlight reel type knockout like that. That hook, like detonated John Jackson. Whereas the Korobov one was kind of like a stoppage type thing. I mean, John Jackson was like practically out, and he tried to get up, and he was like out. So that's why I love that knockout. Yeah, I think the last one we have here is what, event of the year?
Yep.
This is a real tough one too. It's not really a tough one actually. I'm going to go with Groves Froch 2 because it had a dramatic ending. It was a very competitive fight. Had a dramatic ending with Froch just pulling that right hand out of his pocket and blasting Groves. And just really knocking him out flat.
And doing it
awesome.
And doing it in front of 80,000 people too.
That was my next sentence. Yep, doing it in front of 80,000 people to put the cherry on top, man. So, you know, you didn't have the greatest year in boxing, but for such a downer of a year, at least we can pick some of these bright spots out. And this is a great show because we're trying to pick out the good out of the bad. You know what I'm saying? We're finding the diamond in the rough. In basically a year that wasn't the greatest. There was nothing to write home about. And the good thing about this is all year we're going to start off with a bang. We have nowhere to go but up now in 2015. We have nowhere to go but up. And the first big fight of the year, Wildest event, I'm excited, and I know you guys are excited. And you know, it's a close fight. On paper, the odds are almost dead even. When was the last time we got to say the odds? Instead of having to look at these 10-1, 20-1 odd fights, we got a heavyweight matchup. Basically, two Americans. I know Severe's Haitian descent, but I think you can consider him an American now because he lives in America.
Well,
we
he's
got two Americans
isn't
fighting.
isn't he in
You know,
Canada?
No,
he
he
was in
was.
Canada. I think he was in America.
I know he's been in Vegas, or he relocated to Vegas, but I think when he first jumped on the scene, he was Haitian descent from Canada, right? Because he chills with Derry Jean and with Adonis.
Yeah, he could be.
Yeah, he did a lot. He did a lot of training in Montreal.
Well, look, let's rope it in, because that's another show for another day, which I already told everybody. We will be giving him a lot of heavyweight shows. What we're gonna do is gonna take it to some of these callers that've been out here. 917, you're live. Who's this?
Hey, what's good, my brother? Ness?
What's going on, brother?
This is Logan. My pick for the fighter of the year, I think I'm gonna go with Terence Crawford.
Okay.
And the fight of the year. What was you said? What you said it was?
Mathysse versus Molina, Crawford versus Gamboa, Salido versus Kokietgym, and Provodnikov versus Algieri.
It was the first one. Algieri, that was a great fight. You know, he beat him with one eye, and that's the only reason why he got the Pacquiao fight. Other than that, we want to see him fight. I think that's about it on that one.
All right. You going to make some more picks, or is that it for you?
No, that's it for me. I'm just listening to the show. I'm at work right now, so you know.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in, and thanks for listening while you're at work. 832, you're live. Who's this? 832. All right. Well, he's busy. Well, I guess that's pretty much it, man. My event of the year is also Froch Groves. The magnitude, the drama, Groves really sold me. I thought he could pull off the rematch. I was all into the behind the ropes and the ring sides, and I even listened to their podcast. I mean, I was totally all over Sky Sports coverage of this. It was a huge event. Froch knows how to sell a fight as well. I remember the shoving match, and it was just an awesome event. It was something that got televised over here by HBO because of its magnitude. And like Robbie and Beeb already said, 80,000 is 80,000, man. You can't ignore that. But James, what's your pick for event of the year?
If I had to go with for all boxing landscape, I would go with you guys with Froch Groves. But for me personally, the event of the year was Miguel Cotto versus Sergio Martinez the day before the Puerto Rican Day Parade at Madison Square Garden. To me, I've been to a lot of fights, Pacquiao Bradley, I've been a gang of them, okay? But to me, there was no other environment more electric on that night or in boxing to me since I've been going is Cotto Martinez, man. It just... the whole atmosphere, everyone, seeing all you guys, it was just such a good time for me. So personally, I'm going to give that the event of the year because I was a part of it. But for boxing, it would have to be Froch Groves for all the reasons you guys brought up.
Yeah, the thing is that Miguel Cotto Martinez, the electricity probably was on 10 because of the amount of people that were at Froch Groves. Comparing it to Martinez Cotto, but I was there, and like you said, being able to, meet up with you coming all the way from Phoenix, and Madison Square Garden. I mean, it was just lit, the entire area. So that definitely makes a good case for an honorable mention, and I'm glad that you did mention it. That's basically it, guys. So I guess we'll be back probably Thursday or maybe even before that, because we could start talking Wilder, Stavern, because like Beeb said, I am excited. If Wilder could become what people expect him to become, that changes everything in boxing, especially on the heavyweight division, that landscape. I mean, he has that persona to bring some casual fans back because they like heavyweights, because they like knockouts, and he's a good talker. It's going to be great. But Stavern is such a skilled fighter. He's a good counterpuncher, and we've seen what he did to Chris Arreola twice. So, again, excuse me, that's going to be a great fight. But those are my final thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at NesGTO. Jameson Rocket, where could they find you at?
You said it, at Jameson Rocket, Jameson with an I.
Beeb and Robbie, any final thoughts and Twitter info?
You can find me at Ringside Robert on Twitter, and I'm looking forward to Wilder Stavern because we're going to get some questions answered about Deontay Wilder, and he's going to finally, for once, have to go some rounds, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have doubts about Wilder in this fight. Question the competition that he's had. I see a lot of holes in the game. Will Stiverne be able to exploit them? Will he be able to stand up to Wilder's shots if Wilder's able to land one of them big right hands? I don't know, but it seems to me that most people want Wilder to win this fight, and it seems the general consensus out there is that boxing in the heavyweight division needs Wilder to win this fight. People want Wilder to be the face of the heavyweight division. They want to see Wilder fight Klitschko instead of Stiverne fight Klitschko, and I don't know, man. I'm gonna roll with Stiverne. I know that's another show, but I'm just gonna put that out there, and I'm just curious, how you guys feel. Is it better for the heavyweight division for Deontay Wilder to win this fight? A lot of people are saying yes to me. So,
well, listen, I'll just say it from this standpoint. I've interviewed Stiverne. I've talked to him on the phone. I've talked to him in person. He's not entertaining. He's not. He doesn't appeal. He doesn't appeal on TV except for in the ring, and that's what we've been able to see. So we'll see him again. Yeah. He can possibly be exciting enough, because if he beats Deontay the way that he beat Areola, well then I don't really care what you do or don't say during an interview or when a camera's in front of you, as long as when that camera is in front of you, you fight in the way that you do.
Yeah, but I think he also had issues trying to outbox Areola the entire fight. He was touched. I mean, we know that obviously people talk about Deontay Wilder's chin being suspect, but Stiverne wasn't like an iron wall every time Areola hit him. He got hurt quite a few times in both fights. So to me, I'm going on record like Beeb is. I'm going on record and I'm picking Deontay Wilder by knockout in 6. That's just me though. I think Stiverne's being, I guess, pushed up a little bit too much more than he needs to be. People love to shit on Chris Areola, but then turn around and give him credit for the Areola win. I think Areola is a good fighter, but Areola, to me, exposed that there's a lot of weaknesses in Stiverne, and what I do know is that Deontay's a lot taller. He's going to be able to outbox him. He's going to have that jab. Stiverne's going to have to get on the inside, and he's going to get met with a right hand for his troubles. So I got Stiverne in 6, or Wilder in 6.
You know what's impressive about...
Buddy. Listen, you guys are getting carried away with this Wilder talk.
One last thing.
No, let me talk.
I'll cut it. You know what? I'm going to end it on this. What's impressive about the Areola win was we've seen Areola get beat up, okay, and we've seen Vitali beat him up, but we've never seen someone hurt him like that, hit him, put him down, and knock him out basically, like really, really incapacitate him like that. And that was impressive to me. So that tells me that he can punch. And Wilder gets sucked into stuff, and I think his defense is a lot more leaky than Stiverne's, and that's why this is interesting. Well, so you can find me at JHabib1 on Twitter, baby. Come look me up. Follow me, please.
Well, that's been the show. I guess we're going to have to come back as soon as possible with a Wilder-Stiverne preview to the preview, and we'll be doing that this week. We love to talk boxing here on the Boxing Voice. Again, please, as always, continue to support us with an iTunes review.
Remember to rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
And whether our shows are spontaneous or not, usually the times are always going to be between 7 and 7:30 Eastern Time. But our regular scheduled times, Claudia, could you help me, please?
Join us every Thursday and Sunday live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you very much. So we'll see you guys when we see you in a couple of days, couple of hours. Who knows? Later.